Mayor who's come to visit our opening, and our governors who are here today, and all our prestigious guests. We do have an awful lot of prestigious guests, so welcome to all of you. We're very, very pleased to welcome you to this brilliant place. This, our prayer space, is not a brand new initiative. It's actually been a long time in the making. Before I became head teacher in September, our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Griffiths, has long time wanted a prayer space. And he set the wheels in motion, expressed his wishes, and for a long time we've looked to doing this. But we finally managed to finish it this year. Carla Taylor and her team, for the last 2 years, where we had no prayer space, they came and they made temporary spaces for our children. And they've done some brilliant work, so we're very, very grateful to them. Angela Jellicoe, I don't know where she's hiding now, tirelessly supported and developed this initiative. And really she's had an awful lot to do with what has now become this very special place for us. I think she's quite bashful, but she's driven a lot of it. It did start off with a few very, very amateur drawings. It actually started off with, I think, Miss Jellicoe, our caretaker, Miss Nile, and our premises manager. I think I had a little bit of input as well, pacing out, doing really amateur drawings, saying to the builders, this is what we want. We wanted wonderful things. And they looked quite horrified, very bad measurements. But they translated all our plans into a room, and they tolerated a lot of the things we were asking for. Having done all the health and safety checks, safety regulations, electric checks, measurements, they started. But even that was not straightforward. To the shock, and if his face was anything to go by, the absolute horror of the carpenter who started work, he didn't realise there's an unexpected water pipe that runs through the middle of this building, which didn't take very kindly. I've gotta let it go. We found love in a hopeless place. 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 Shine a light through an open door. Love a life I will defy. Turn away 'cause I need you more. Feel the heartbeat in my mind. It's the way I'm feeling, I just can't deny. But I've gotta let it go.
I've been involved in making this prayer space happen over the last few years. So I've been working with Angela Jellicoe and others in the school to see this place happen, which is it's just really exciting to get to today and have this opening. So thank you everyone for coming today. It's really good to see you. I'm part of a community group called 24/7 Prayer Stanford, and we're involved in various different projects throughout the community. We run an after-school cafe over at Gable Hall School, and some people are involved in mentoring and chaplaincy over there. Also, some of our community are involved in a youth bus project called Bar and Bus. Other people are involved in something called BSOM, which reaches out to those in need in the local community. So we've been involved in lots of different things in lots of different schools, and over the last few years I've just had the privilege of really working with lots of different schools with something called prayer spaces, which is just basically an opportunity to just facilitate a space where children can come and young people can come and just have a chance to reflect and think about life, and think about some of the bigger questions, and have the opportunity to pray if they want to.
Fantastic. So my name's Phil Togwell. It really is a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for the welcome, for the invitation. As has been said, I work for Prayer Space in Schools, which is a spin-off of 24/7 Prayer. 24/7 prayer is an accidental prayer movement. It stumbled, sneezed into existence at the end of 1999 when a bunch of students on the south coast of England who were inspired by this ancient Moravian community in Germany in the 1700s, were inspired by them to pray continually. Students inspired to pray. And so they set aside a room, not quite as beautiful as this one. It was a room in a warehouse in Chichester, and they kitted it out with lots of creative ideas, some paints and some pastels and some Bibles and some piles of stones and cans of Red Bull and a coffee machine to stay awake when they were praying in the early hours of the morning, and they decided to pray. They wanted to learn how to pray by praying. And I've been caught up in this crazy movement for the last 12 years and was as surprised as anyone when about 4 or 5 years ago schools started to host these prayer spaces. It's been about 350 at least week-long prayer spaces around the UK so far in the last 4 years. They fit well into the curriculum. As many of you are well aware, the schools are expected to provide an experience of spiritual learning. And it needs to be inclusive. And I really believe that Christians are well placed to host those kind of inclusive spaces. Jesus said, let the children come to me. Make it easy for them to come. And I believe that's what we're doing. We're making it easy for children and young people to explore faith and spiritual life through these prayer spaces. I read on the website, on the St Clare's website early, that the vision for this space is that it will give opportunities for all, regardless of faith, to pray, to contemplate, and to have a quiet time if and when needed. I don't know about you, but I'd like one of those. If and when needed. I think it's a when. I don't know about you. I don't think it's an if. I think it's a when. I think we all need space to pause, to stop, to reflect, to consider the chaos, the mess, the bombarded experiences that we go through on a daily basis and try and make sense of them. The Canadian journalist Carl Honor says in his book In Praise of Slow, which I would recommend to all of you, he says this: we must make time for activities that defy acceleration.
Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My debt you paid, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name up high. Lord, I lift your name up high. Lord, I lift your name up high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt you paid, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name up
isn't it? Ask if we've got a bottle of champagne that we could Are there any special words? I now pronounce this incredible prayer space, and I hope it gets full of staff and students over the coming months and years. I declare it open.
And I'm talking about in India, not here. And in that small meditation room, anyone would come who felt a little bit distressed, couldn't cope with any lesson even, could go into the small room, there was a chair there, and there was a little cushion there. They could sit down there and shut the door. And after a couple of minutes, teacher comes, they might come out. It was a great experience. And I always think that our schools are becoming more and more stressful. Pressure of exams, teachers, always under pressure. Because I started my life as a teacher. And I know how demanding this job is. We all need in our life a little bit of space where you can sit, think, and get some type of solution.
But it was a couple of years ago now that we had our first prayer space here. I have to say that Carla and Angela did such a fantastic job in laying this work out in these rooms here. That it really did inspire me and many others who came in to see the room, how it affected and interfaced with children and enabled them to reflect. And it was only right and proper that we tried to plan for some permanent ones. A lot of people have been involved, but I have to thank Angela very, very much for all her support in bringing this about, because without you it wouldn't. I'm also very pleased that you've joined SACRA with me, very appreciate that too. And so that the school is well represented in SACRA, and I hope in the future that we will be also well represented in terms of working with the other secondary schools and primary schools locally in making sure that children do understand that they have time for reflection, time for an opportunity to reflect on themselves, and if they are of a mind to pray, an opportunity to do so. And thank you to governors and Chair of Trust and other VIPs from other local churches. Thank you very much for coming along and sharing this with us today.
You're not looking this way for me, you're only one decision. Okay, two more. You're only one. I'm okay, you go. Married. Thank you.